Good morning, everyone. Now, before we begin, I would like you all to tie a knot on this strand of wool, as it is crucial for the idea I shall express today. Can someone please pass this to the audience? Thank you. Now, let's play a little game. Don't worry, it isn't about reciting the alphabet backwards or listing all the numerals of pi. It's really simple. Well, looking down, could you tell me the color of your shirt? Or maybe what you had for breakfast? Well, I'm sure some of you can, but I think we all know most of us can't. As we're certain, we tend to be a little forgetful at times, and maybe that's the reason we don't know the consequences of our actions until we have done the deed. It is better to dream, think out of the box, and explore new possibilities. Well, when a line is drawn, it doesn't mean you have to be fenced in, even though it may have been meant for your own safety. We can always go beyond, but remember, your consequences will follow your actions. It would have been amazing if we progressed towards advancement at a gradual pace. However, due to the prized obsession for money, you may have gone a little extreme. Because, to be quite frank, it is our dominant nature to feed our hunger, quench our thirst, and to satisfy our greed. Adults, although they're mature and logical, they have never really been satisfied. And maybe those are the characteristics that build yourself. Sometimes they're consumed with gluttony and personal benefit and will stop at nothing to have their desires grasped in their hands. Now, if I were to ask you who were to be the future, I am certain that you would tell it's the youth. But why do you place the world on children's shoulders? Why do you depend on children to make the world a brighter place? Because all the negativity in this world was initiated by adults, because you tend to think in the perspective of yourselves. A recent study has proved that children are much more competent than adults. And I'm not even talking about teenagers. I mean like 5 to 6-year-olds. But as we grow up, well, we are taught more, we experience more, and maybe society's expectations weigh us down to the same thinking mindset. They say we remember more negative events than positive ones. And likewise, every day we're reminded of how chaotic this century has proved to be. Now, for instance, over the past few centuries, I mean, civil wars, world wars, and political conflict have been omnipresent to this very day. Now, with destruction at its peak, can't you all tell that with all these natural disasters too, that Mother Nature is raging with anger? Well, this all began when I went on vacation to my motherland, Sri Lanka, in hopes of a hiking trip to Vilpattu, a vast nature reserve which is a home to a lot of biodiversity. Now, my mother kept mentioning its immense beauty, verdant canopies, and all the wild animals which roam there. However, on our arrival, much to our dismay, an entire portion of the Vilpattu Nature Reserve was completely destroyed. I mean, forests cleared, and all you could see were these round stumps of trees which were once home to so many. It was this that got me thinking. This was not the youth's doing. Life, or perhaps the way the world revolves, is pretty much similar to a chess game, wherein the youth are represented by the courageous pawns, always advancing forward. And the more valuable pieces are the adults, calculative, and analytic. Now, the king, I would like to mention, well, he represents the mind. Now, there are two possible outcomes. Either the king is under checkmate or stalemate. When a king is under checkmate, the players, well, they seek for the minor pieces, the pawns. But especially when threatened, they abruptly desire to transform the pawn to a much more treasured asset. So, is it just human nature to share our burdens only to escape it? Well, if you reprimand someone for their mistakes, they won't attempt to eradicate them. They'll just be better at concealing them. Which brings us to lying. Hasn't it occurred more often than you could count when you're presented the opportunity to lie? Well, the voices in our heads are all the same volume. No matter how much you try and convince yourself by raising your tone, the truth can never be hidden, just like the sun and the moon. Now, going back to your initial task, tying those pesky knots, may I please have the wool back? Thank you. Well, when we look at this strand of wool, you'll notice that there are many obstacles to approach. Imagine 7 billion people contributing to this, each tying a nasty knot. Well, this is the world right now, riddled to the point of no saving. As beads of sweat form on your forehead and your mouth twitches to gnaw at your fingernails, you are worried about the blame, so your immediate response is to hand this thread to the youth. Therefore, we're restricted to pursue what we desire because we're working laboriously to unravel it to its once pristine nature. So, in conclusion, you'll have to genuinely think about the youth. Because even if there's this minor chance, perhaps 1 in a million, we could probably work it out. Now, for the youth sitting here, what should we do? Keeping this lesson in mind, you are supposed to be yourselves, not to please anyone and never rush into the state of adulthood. Well, what I want you to do right now is question your inner consciousness of 3 very simple statements and act upon them. Question yourself and aspects of life to contradict the state of uniformity you have brought yourselves in. Remember, no poison can kill a positive thinker, nor can any medicine cure a negative thinker. And last but not least, never make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. Thank you.